Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining our first LinkedIn Live session. My name is Baba Hyatt, and I lead the technology and transformation team within Connexo, which is a provider of alternative legal services developed by Evershed Sutherland. I'm delighted to be joined by Vasily Tipley from UiPath and Barry Roddick from Connexo to look at some examples of automation that are having a real impact on the legal industry. We've seen a rapid increase in recent years in the use of technology in the legal industry, and really it's attributed to several factors: budget, resource, and efficiency, challenges faced by in-house legal teams, policymakers who are opening up the legal services market to alternative business structures that really allow for alternative providers to operate more easily, as well as a prospering technology talent pool, with world-class institutions who are developing and pioneering new solutions to really transform the way of working. We can spend a lot of time, I'm sure, talking about different automation technologies that are available in the market today. But really, today's focus and the purpose of this session is to talk about robotic process automation, how it augments the work that lawyers are doing, and where we've seen a real impact both internally within our business and externally with clients of RPA. So I'm going to start by really asking Vasily to introduce himself. So Vasily, could you start by giving us some background to UiPath and your role?
Thank you, Omar. First of all, thank you for having me. I was actually UiPath for legal counsel. It's a UiPath. I'm not sure how many of you know. It's a pretty young company, only less than 5 years. It started in Bucharest, Romania, and now I'm proud to say it's a global company. I think it was one of the fastest in history of software growth for such a company. We have over 30 offices all around the world, hold the top 500 Fortune customers, and we are definitely on the path to transform the way we do our work in terms of making it more interactive, efficient, and I would even say fun. I started at UiPath actually almost 5 years ago, and I had the fantastic opportunity to not only contribute directly to building the company's processes and operations, but also to build UiPath's global legal team. And that was one of the definitely unique experience that I had in terms of looking at where a lawyer needs to be focused and where we can use technology to make our work faster and more efficient. And I think that was the key combination that helped us as a legal team to be a trusted partner for the company and ensure that it was able to actually scale in less than 5 years from a local Romanian company to actually being a truly global leading RPA enterprise software company. So in a nutshell, this is it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Vasily. And of course, UiPath is applicable to many industries, many sectors. But could you give us an example where you've applied UiPath within the legal industry and the impact that's had?
That's a great question. Initially I wasn't truly a believer. I was a legal guy looking at contracts, how to do the work, how to make sure we are legally compliant. But then we actually had an interesting process of implementing the export control policy, which I'm sure you know is that type of policy that needs to be in line with the US and EU regulations on dealing with certain parties, to avoid that not to deal with some restricted companies. And that was an intensely manual process, to check all those companies and make sure that we are allowed to enter into a discussion with them. And at that point, we actually thought of, could RPA actually help us make this, as an automated process and avoid actually doing it manually, or even worse, to start a lengthy RFP process and find a suitable trade compliance vendor for us. And I must say, from initial research, it was a pretty expensive type of software that we would needed to acquire, and definitely not very flexible compared to what RPA allows you to do. And basically, once we understood the process, the databases that we needed to check, and we linked those databases to our internal ways of searching that data, we actually got our first legal robot. We call it Export Control Solution. And I'm happy to say that after several years, it's still working for us, helping us achieve compliance. And we actually made it as a solution out of the box for any of our customers that want, to have something more easy to use, more flexible, and I would say better. And that was only our first solution. From that moment, I understood that whenever you have a volume based type of work, then RPA is definitely the solution for you. And the next logical step for us at that point, to free up some of the work our lawyers were doing in reviewing standard documentation. And I must say, at that point, we tracked, it was around 4 hours a day that the lawyer would spend just to make sure, to do his due diligence, to make sure that the specific contract or documentation was not inadvertently changed, or some changes from customers were not properly tracked. And that helped us, we saved around 4 hours a day from our lawyers' work, by actually putting a robot up to it. And that was only the first step. Now, with some of the new features that we have on document understanding, on machine learning, we are actually able to train the robots to better review not only our standard contracts, but also those non-standard type of agreements, that come in on customer paper. And I'm not sure how much time I have, but I still, if you're interested, I can still list another robot, which I think is really good for the European market, is the GDPR robot, which helps us ensure that we are compliant with the regulation by we actually automated the way data subject sends us a request, how the internal robots are finding the right information, compiling the right report, and provide that information to the user. So these are some of the main, I would say, large volume and very time expensive processes for a lawyer, which essentially a lawyer shouldn't be doing that. They should focus on strategic thinking, on what matters in terms of properly supporting the legal operations of their company.
Great, thanks, Vasil. And I'm just going to switch over to Barry for a moment. Barry, we've been working with a range of automation technologies within Connexo, and of course, UiPath and RPA more recently. Could you maybe start by giving us some background to your role, and then we can talk a little bit about the use cases and some of the things we've done within Connexo?
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Barry Roddick. I'm a technologist within Connexo. So the main purpose of my job is to take a look at the process and the tasks that happen, sort of the life cycle of what goes on, and then try to stitch together the right set of business change or technologies to improve. So how do we make things better, and trying to bring the mix of business change and the different technologies that we need to achieve that goal. So primarily focused on sort of like many legal teams, I suspect, that the things that are particularly well catered for already in the legal market: contract assembly, case management. These are the things that, sort of bread and butter things that we put on early. And sort of lately our focus has shifted to RPA, to look at how we can be a little bit more agile in how we deal with client requirements, and how we're able to sort of introduce automation.
Great, and thanks, Barry. And could we talk? Could you give us an example, or go into a bit more detail around some of the use cases that we've looked at within Connexo?
Yes.
Specifically, where that idea came from, and how we went about building it.
No problem. So the one we've released 2 weeks ago is our sort of post-completion robot for company secretarial. So what we found was there's a large repetitive task where our teams need to upload documentation to an official website. So this thing happens about 100 times a week. takes around 5 minutes. So, we're talking about 8 hours worth of effort we're able to give back to that team on a weekly basis. And what it involved was sort of taking final documents, converting them to PDF, logging into a website, navigating the website, and uploading the final document. It's because we do it in volume, that small 5-minute saving is sort of really making a difference for them. In terms of where it came about, we just went into the team. We sort of set the scope and say, look, we're looking for processes that look like this, that are highly consistent, sort of repetitive, highly rules-based, the standard things that you'd look for in any automation, really. And the team were able to sort of look at all the tasks they didn't really want to do anymore, and this was top of the list. And for me, is looking at it from a process side, it ticked all those boxes. We do it in volume, we do it over. So that was it. We then sort of sat down with one of the team members. She showed me what we did. We recorded our screens, and I was able just to sort of scope the process out in the sort of low code environment. And a couple of weeks later, we're able to launch.
Fantastic. And maybe one other question for you, Barry, is around, were you working across different systems as part of that process?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So originally this thing would come in via email, we'd log in. We've been able to sort of manipulate the process now. So when final documents are delivered, they're handed over to HiQ. So sort of this online extranet. We then sort of download the documents. We sort of manipulate the document to convert it from Word to PDF. And then we save that file and then upload it into the final repository. So we're using a mix of sort of Word and Office. We're using HiQ as a way of collecting all the data. And then obviously the sort of the last website where we upload the final documents to in diligence.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks, Barry. Vasily, you mentioned a few use cases early on. Are there any others you'd mentioned which you've seen to have really high impact, deliver high value to an in-house legal team or to a legal function?
Well, speaking purely from our experience, I would definitely say that the export control robot was a game changer for us. That would have required a lot of investment from our side in terms of onboarding a new vendor, integrating it with our systems, training the teams how to use that software, and all those unquantifiable actions, which we basically solved with the robot. And as very, very well put it, the robot essentially emulates what a human can do with on a desktop. And essentially for the export control process, you need to make sure that you do not enter into contracts with sanctioned parties. And typically those are mentioned on various lists published by various government agencies from US, EU. So it's tons of data to go through and search. And basically what this robot does is whenever someone registers a new customer, maybe a potential customer in our system, the robot automatically go and checks all those databases and reverts with the result instantly. Like if it's a suspect, then you definitely have the compliance officer notified and to check what's the actual status. If not, it's a clean deal and you can proceed forward. And everything is very seamless because it's integrated with. It can be integrated with any type of CRM, and it can do all those checks at the moment you actually register a new customer, or regularly, daily, whatever time frame you want to put there. Because as you know, today a customer can be clean, but tomorrow there may be an issue, and you definitely want to be made aware of that. And that saved us thousands of hours per year. And another, I would say, very interesting process that helped us with our stakeholders and made even the interaction with legal more interactive is that we implemented we call it Robotorni. It's a robot that basically answers you any type of question that you might have on legal, on email, or on the company chat. And basically what this does is that whenever we got a question, the robot instantly provided an answer. And that was basically 24/7 support all around the globe for all our teams on the most commonly known legal questions. And that was something of a tremendous help, because now we basically achieved that level where legal team and a lawyer is only contacted with serious issues. Like, you need to focus on that. You don't need to to answer recurring questions or very simple questions that are on the company's intranet or in another system, which the robot can just pick up and provide to the user. That's not an added value type of work you want your lawyers to do.
Great, thanks, Vasil. So, as you've heard from both Barry and Vasil, there's a number of scenarios, number of areas where RPA can have a real impact and deliver some real tangible benefits for a team. And getting started with RPA, it doesn't have to be complex, but there are some things that I think should be considered. So it's important to be clear on your use cases, starting with small, easy processes that you do a lot are repetitive or cause bottlenecks. And you don't necessarily have to look at the entire process, but equally look at parts of a process where RPA can equally be beneficial. I think it's important to evaluate the benefit. So be clear on the benefits that can be achieved rather than just what can be automated. As Barry mentioned, even saving 5 minutes per transaction doesn't immediately seem significant, but actually quickly adds up if you're doing 100 transactions. And then measure those benefits. Once something is deployed or implemented, tracking the benefit, tracking the return of investment actually being achieved, and using that as a way to support the creation of more robots or more processes that can be automated certainly supports that adoption of RPA. So perhaps just to finish off, automation will undoubtedly have an increasing impact on the legal industry. And whilst this early days, and as you've heard, where we've seen the greatest impact is when automation is augmented with the work people are doing rather than replacing their work entirely. Interestingly, it's also opened up an opportunity for people to learn new skills. We've seen new areas of responsibilities being created for people around identifying use cases, applying process change and technology in a way that's appropriate to their teams or their roles. So this is meant to be and intended to be an intro session to RPA. I'd like to thank Vasily and Barry for joining me in this session. We have an article on digital transformation and RPA that will be published as part of Connexo Insights on the Connexo LinkedIn page later today, so please look out for that. But with that, we'll end the session. And if you have any questions, please do reach out to myself, Barry and Vasily. And with that, thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.